Yeah, you can say that.
We will now call the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees business meeting to order. We're at the Administration Building. It's Tuesday, July 17th, 2018, 6:30 p.m. And I would like everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'd like to begin by asking for a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Warren. Is there a second?
I'll make that second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any patron comments on agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from regular business meeting of 6/13/18. Make a little correction. The personnel report. Retirements, resignations, leaves of absences, etc. The approval of the June 2018 claims 50189, 50500, and a donation of $1,000 from U.S. Lacrosse for equipment for the CMS PE department. So seeing the consent agenda, I would like to ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to the action items. Personnel report, Mr. Serqua.
Yes, thank you. Recommendations for employment for certified staff. Rebecca Amix, elementary teacher at Grandview. Victoria Collins, elementary teacher at Maplewood. Madeline Honerlaw, elementary teacher at Maplewood. Jeff Martin, flex teacher at Connersville Middle School. Jewel Poe will be under a temporary contract as an elementary teacher at Fayette Central. Kyle Pryor, graphic design teacher at the Career Center. And Kevin Ray, industrial technology teacher at Connersville High School. Also classified staff, Alicia Burke, family service coordinator at the Resource Center. Amanda Cranfield, preschool teacher, and Mandy Harvey, athletic secretary at the high school, Colton Massey, a co-op intern, and Jennifer Snyder, health assistant at Fayette Central. Also, we have a recommendation for a salary increase in substitute teacher and long-term sub-teachers. If you remember last year, we increased the upper level substitute teachers from 80 to 85 and then 85 to 90 for the retired teachers. As we look at continuing to recruit more substitute teachers or guest instructors, it's evident we need to work on increasing the lower level of those, and so we're asking to go from $65 to $70 for the lowest level, and then 75 to 80 for those with a bachelor's degree. And then as far as a long-term sub, the way it is now, we provide them with 15 days of the top end, $90 an hour, and then it kicks into their hourly rate as when they left. Well, number one, that's getting very expensive for us. It's very difficult to find those people, especially they want more money those first 15 days. So what we're asking is to start on day one, as long as they're going to sub in a long-term situation for more than 15 days, and pay them the $210 daily. So it's to their advantage to do that, and for us, it's a lot easier with the bookkeeping, not having to figure out which day they started and when the 15 days kicks in and things like that. So we're asking for your approval of those changes in the in the salaries of the guest instructors.
Okay, Mike, on the last one for the long-term instructor, we've had situations where somebody is in a long-term subbing situation, they've been there for maybe a week, then for whatever reason, they would have to miss a day, and then they would have to go back and start over again. This would eliminate that. Once they started the long-term sub,
Right.
if an emergency came up, they had to miss a day, they didn't go back to the,
That's part of the issue, correct?
And
okay.
another issue is, we had a situation where one of our retired teachers covered a maternity leave for 6 weeks, and then he started over on another one, but the way it's set up is you have to start over at those
Yeah.
15 days. This eliminates that.
Good.
And then, of course, if it's a teacher who's a half year or longer, then we use the temporary contract. But this really helps with those teachers who, it caused some issues for us, with teachers having to start over on the 15 days, and so we can be consistent this way.
What does long-term refer to? Because you're saying
Yes.
there's a difference between long-term and a temporary something you said.
If they are a sub for 90 school days or more, we would issue a temporary contract.
Right.
Oh, okay,
Which
so
would
under
be-
90
Under
days.
90
teacher
days
pay.
for the same person,
Right, for the
Correct.
same person.
for the same
yes.
person, not 90 days total.
Okay.
So let's say Mark wanted to go back and fill in for a kindergarten position for a semester, then we would put him under a temporary contract for those 90 days.
And we might be looking for a new superintendent.
You can't do it anyway, Mark.
Okay.
And on this second level, this would bring, the bachelor's degree then goes to $80 a day, and then the other one goes from 65 to 70.
Correct.
Okay. Has there been any thought given to those people who have subbed a lot for a very long time, have been in the system like for 5 or 10 years and have been a steady sub? Have there's been any discussion about improving their pay rate? And I don't know exactly where some of them fall on here, whether they have the bachelor degrees or not, but we've had some subs in the system that have been subbing for a really long time and are very good about coming in. And I didn't know whether we'd had any discussion particularly about having a provision for those people with so much, it sounds silly, but it's a senior
Right.
sub.
Now we haven't, other than the fact that when they're retired, they go into that next
Yeah,
level.
okay.
But no, we haven't.
Okay.
I have had a conversation with one of our subs like that, and it's something that's on the radar to look at.
Okay.
But right now, we don't have, we haven't pursued anything.
Okay, well, I think I probably talked to that same person.
Yeah,
Best guess. But no, I think there are some people who have been very, very loyal subs over
Sure.
the last few years or so, and they're very difficult to find.
And those are some of the subs that we'll try to contact when we have a long-term sub position open up, because we know that they've been here, they've been consistent, they're usually good, and the teachers and the principals like them. So I guess the advantage is if they show us that they're continuing to work and do a good job, then when those long-term positions open up, we try to contact them.
Okay, that's,
And they did either get a raise last year or they're getting one this
Okay.
year if this is approved. That it's not really for their longevity, but we are continuing to review the pay for those positions.
well, sub-pay, we have difficulty finding subs. With the number of subs that go, substitute positions that go unfilled in any given day sometimes is problematic for everybody. So a little bit more money will be hopefully helpful.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. A second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ann. Any further discussion?
Does that include the proposed pay raises?
Personnel report and proposed pay raises. It's not listed like that on the agenda, but thank you.
Okay.
So those motions stand. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we'll move on to Magic Moments preschool tuition increase. Ms. Purcell.
Thank you, Board President. Tonight, I have asked Alicia, Director of Magic Moments, to come forward to give you a brief explanation of her request. Thank you, Alicia.
We are just asking to raise the monthly tuition for preschool. Right now, parents pay $100 a month, and we would like to raise it to $120 a month. The tuition has not been raised since the preschool started back in 2011. So just to maintain a good budget, and with operating costs and everything else that continues to rise, we feel we need to raise the tuition to $120 a month.
And that's just for the preschool, not for the daycare portion?
Correct. That's the preschool only class that goes 3 hours a day for 4 days a week.
Okay.
And the preschool in May, we increased that for the first time in, I think, 10 years.
The
right?
childcare.
The childcare.
Yeah, the childcare, we
Childcare.
increased that back in May for the first time since 2008.
Yeah,
So,
This is different.
thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Do you foresee this $20, this would be $80 a month, having an impact on?
it's $20 a month.
Oh, $20.
$20 a month.
Oh, impacting any of your students? or-
I don't believe so.
Okay. I was gonna say $20 a week probably wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
$20 a month is a whole different story.
Yes.
So about how many students are in the preschool program?
The most that we can have is 22, but we have to follow state licensing regulations. So our morning class is 4-year-olds, so that can be a 12-to-1 ratio. So we have 12 in there, and then the afternoon has 3-year-olds, so we can only have 10 in that class, so 22.
Okay, so are you usually full then?
As of right now, we are full for this, starting the school year
Oh, good.
in August, the end of August. So. Mhm.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the Magic Moments preschool tuition increase.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Andy. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the upgrades for the school stream hiring management process, and I'm not sure who's presenting.
That's mine.
Yeah.
School Stream is the software system that we use for our hiring management. In other words, we're able to track people that apply. They can apply online. Principals can access different jobs that are posted. So it's something that's very vital to us. We have not upgraded that program since I think I was here last time. And finally, we called and I just said, surely you guys have an update, because everything looks kind of old in here. And they said, oh yeah, you've never updated. So this is our request to update it and get into the 21st century.
You've retired twice since then, Mike.
The problem is they need to be paid before the upgrade goes through. So that's why we're putting it on the action item for your approval today, because we're going to need to pay them. I think our current software lasts until the middle of August. So it's important that we get this online. Otherwise, we kind of lose everything that we have there. On the back, you can see we're talking about $13,000, $13,153. They did discount us on several things because we were one of the initial schools involved way back when. We did look at Frontline, which Frontline is another system that we use for some of our software programs. But to get into their hiring management program, it was more than double of what this company is charging us. So we really felt we wanted to stay with them and upgrade the things that we can do. It'll give us a better access to other places when we post jobs. It'll be Instamatic instead of us having to go to Facebook and do this and contact the colleges here. Basically, once we post it, it'll be posted in multiple different sources. Now we have to physically do it every time. So it'll be easier for the applicant when they apply. Again, it'll be easier for the principals as they're trying to track who's applied for the jobs that they have. So I recommend your consideration for this. It'll be a good improvement, and it's probably something we should have done a while back, to be honest.
Couple questions.
Yeah.
First one, State discounting price is valid until July 9th. I would assume it's,
They extended that,
okay.
yeah.
And then the second one is, looks like the annual subscription fee is $53.55. What are we paying now?
75.
Oh, so we're getting a discount on that?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be okay.
Yep.
Saving money and upgrading, we can't beat that.
Yeah, so in a
That's
couple
what I
of
was
years,
gonna ask.
2.5
That's the-
years, we're gonna recoup our
Right,
investment.
exactly.
But next year, will we be back to the 75?
No, it'll be 53 every year from then on out.
Probably will be
Well, they may,
revisited with an
yeah, they may
annual
come back
but
to
increase,
this,
that's-
but, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Negotiate that then.
Even with our antiquated system that this is the one that you really like the best,
Yes.
is the one you think will work the best for
Mhm.
us?
And we're used to it for the most part, you know, and the trouble is when you change the sophomore system, it takes you a
We did that
year.
last year.
Yeah, right. So we're used to it, and I think it'll be some good upgrades for us.
I'd like to take a minute to interject on this. You know, Mike pointed out that part of the reason this is on the agenda is the fact that we need to pay them in advance. And I think what a lot of vendors and some, maybe even you, don't understand is I'm prohibited from paying for anything in advance or giving a deposit because we're a governmental entity and those regulations exist to protect us to not pay, give somebody a deposit and then they don't do the work. So when, you know, it's a challenge for us because sometimes vendors require that. And so that's why periodically, not very often, but we will put these items on the agenda asking for your permission to pay them in advance.
But you can do it as long as it's board approved. Or,
It protects me in the event that they wouldn't fulfill their obligations. So you do have the right to say, no, we're not gonna do that. The other side of that is we're gonna have to look for another vendor to do that. So we have not been written up or received any pushback from the Board of Accounts with the board's permission for that. But that's not to say at
That it
some
couldn't
point that that couldn't happen. So,
Not that we labor all of this, but what is the reason for that?
to not be able to pay in advance,
That this vendor wants to be paid in advance?
It's just
that's their policy.
that's their policy. Before they'll upgrade that program, they'll want pay in advance.
I would imagine, you know, some schools are in financial trouble and they have been burned and not gotten paid timely, had to wait 6 or 8 months. So they've changed their policy
Okay, well, I
on one or
understand
two bad.
Yeah.
It might not even be in Indiana, it might be some other state, but usually when you see those types of things, the other side of it is when it's an equipment type item. For example, the awning for Fayette Central and the awning for Grandview. They want paid part of it for when the items are delivered because they have to pay the supplier for that. So in those instances, we will sometimes put it on the board report and we will hold the check until the item's actually delivered and inspected by Brian or whatever, and then we'll release the check for that part of the project,
That's fine.
so.
Well, it's just like we have to do when we have worked in our homes. You have to pay a certain amount down for the supplies, and then you pay them the rest on the completion of the job.
Is it a hindrance to you, Janie, to enter vendors to wait just once a month in order to get approval from the board? Is there any?
A lot of them don't like it.
Is there any other way that we can circumvent that legally? I don't know. I'm not saying
I don't
bypass
think
board
on a
approval.
recurring basis, but last month, you gave me permission to
To
settle
advance.
claims on June 30th because of the account number change. In December, you generally give me permission for year-end processes so I can pay bills again towards the end of December so that we can close out accounts. And as a part of that motion, you also allow me to transfer monies. Sure, nobody wants to wait a month. It's a month now.
Right.
Sometimes it's 6 weeks, depending on the timing of the
I didn't know if there's a
different
better process from a board standpoint. I know I serve on other boards, and, you know, the executive director or whomever's in charge of the company, I guess, I'm the board with, they'll send out an email for approval that way, and then we do that. I don't know if that's legal to do that? No, okay. So you have to meet.
Not as a governmental entity.
Okay, well, thank you for that additional information, Janie, appreciate that. Okay, I'd like to seek a motion for the upgrades for the school stream hiring management process.
So moved.
Thank you, Warren. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now we're ready for a discussion item, 2018 Fayette County School Corporation update. Mr. Collins.
Thank you. I timed this 42 minutes, so.
I'm leaving at 20.
I like to talk. What I wanted to do, you recall Dr. Hodges provided a similar type presentation, the state of the schools. Typically that fell in the winter time in January. I had not been superintendent that long, and I wasn't even at a year in January, so I really wanted to wait, get a little more time under my belt, and I sort of like this timing. We get to see end of the year data with NWEA and some of those pieces, so we'll move through. No secret, we have changing demographics here, and I wanted to highlight a few of those. Student enrollment, this was always interesting. This information comes from the Department of Education website. That is what we report to them, and this includes our pre-K-12 enrollment, so keep that in mind. It also includes our Head Start kiddos, preschool kiddos. So if you look at the numbers and the decline since 2014-15, we are down about 260 kids. I'm optimistic we'll see a smaller decrease in enrollment loss this year. We're very optimistic, but we'll see. It's a waiting game. But when you keep that in mind, with 63 students, our tuition reimbursement is about how much, Janie, for this year?
$6,400 a
So-
student.
Take $6,300 times 63.
That includes pre-K though.
Right, so
which
that's a
we
little
do
different.
not get the $6,300 or $6,400 for.
So it definitely has an impact. Something else I wanted to show is our poverty rates. We make the news a lot, unfortunately, for our unemployment and different things. So what I want to do, this is a different slide than maybe you've seen. I've included in blue the state percentages for each of the 4 years. And I've used 4 years as our increment here. That's where I feel like moving forward. Let's look at those years. And if you look on the second column with the free lunch percentage for Fayette County in black, we've increased from 54% to 59% in the last 4 years. And then if you look at our reduced lunch, you've seen a significant drop from 2014 to 17 with about half, over half. So, but our paid percentage is pretty steady at 36.5%. So when you compare that to the state, we're significantly higher than the state, which has a paid percentage on average in schools of 52%. So I think it's some interesting data just to show that, we have a lot of kids who are coming in. Poverty does play a role in student readiness and in student success in school. So the data I'm going to show you, I think, is a testament to the work going on in our schools by our staff, because there's some really cool stuff that I'm going to show you. Kindergarten readiness. When I returned in 2015, we were starting our first year of Kindergarten Jump Start, and I want to send out a shout out to the foundation for continuing to help sponsor this with a generous donation again this year. NWEA, I'm not going to give you the full tutorial on it, but NWEA uses RIT scores to measure where students are. And so what I've done is taken the last 4 years of kindergarten data. I started tracking this when I came back. And if you look at our incoming group in 2014-15, the average RIT score was 141.5. Does everyone follow that? And then the spring score was 157.9. So what that means is our kids in reading grew 16.4 RITs. And then you look across at math, they started at 139, grew to 160.2. That's significant. They grew 21.2 RIT. And then let's follow that data down to 2017-18. Our kids have dropped overall as a whole grade level from 141.5 4 years ago to 140.4. And then we see a more significant drop in the fall math from 139 to 136.5. So what does that tell us?
Kids aren't ready.
Our kids are coming in less
Less-
ready for
less
kindergarten
prepared.
than they were 4 years ago. That's a challenge, and we have some principals in this room who will attest that, and early childhood teachers. It is a challenge, but there's some really positive things there. Look at our growth. So then we look at the next slide, which is really cool. So we look at national percentage. How do our kids compare nationally? That's a really great tool that NWA is, because it shows us both district, and it shows us school, and it shows us national. So let's look at 2017-18, because this is the most recent year that I want to report on. Remember, our kindergarten kids came in at 140.4 average RIT. That was in the 48th percentile nationally, which means we were below the average mark of the 50th percentile. Look at our growth in the spring. We jumped to the 62nd national percentile. That speaks to a lot of great work taking place in our kindergarten classrooms. And then we look at the math, and we look at that jump. Look at where our kids came in at 136.5, which is significantly lower. It's in the 40th percentile, and we grew to the 57th percentile. I was very proud of that, and when Kim and I were going over this, there's some good stuff going on. I just want you to acknowledge that work that's taking place, because kindergarten is a very challenging year, just getting kids acclimated. So I think it affirms our investment in early childhood and what we're doing, and I thank you for that, with allowing us to create these preschool programs, because if we can get the kids when they're younger, I think we're going to see an upward trend even more than that. So
Are we going to track the kids that start, what was our first year Jump Start?
15, 16.
15, 16? Are we going to be able to track these kids for, till the end of their schools?
As long as
Because
we
that
have
would-
NWA, that's a great
That would be
tool.
giving me some really interesting data to see how these kids were impacted as opposed to those who did not attend Jump Start. I think that it's going to be pretty obvious what we're going to see, but it's,
I think it will be interesting, but even since we started Jumpstart, we're still seeing a decline in the readiness, and I think that's the piece with Jumpstart. Unfortunately, there's not as much academics that can be done. It's more about getting those procedures and getting the kids ready for school. And in the programs I visited this week, it's really neat to see how the kids are already getting into a nice routine in just day 2. So I think Jumpstart is a great thing, and we may look at how we can change that. And if our preschool grows, we may not have as significant a need for that same type of program. So I'm hoping preschool will close a lot of those gaps. That's what we're counting on. So I'm excited about watching that data. And then we look at our K-10. As you recall, you approved us to proceed with NWA as our formative assessment. We did receive notice that the grant was approved, again, by the state. And what I wanted to show you was taking that same percentile, this is for math, for this current school year that we just finished, looking at what their fall mean RIT score was for each grade level, and then what their spring average was. And then in the column, in the third column with the green, if it's highlighted in green, that means they exceeded the national growth average. Look at kindergarten. Nationally, 19.1 RIT is the typical growth for kindergarten. That's pretty impressive. First grade exceeded it by 1.2 RITs. Second and third, and as we looked at this group, we know that there are some challenges there in kids needing extra support, so that's something Kim and I have talked about. What are we going to do differently curricularly? And that's one of the reasons why we're offering this second grade. This second grade jump start going into third grade this year, because we knew that second grade group had some needs. So this is another strategy. We're trying something different, is the second grade going into third grade jump start that's taking place now.
But overall, look at our 10th graders. 2.3 RIT is the typical national growth, 7.6. Now, I'm going to tell you, this doesn't correlate with iStep. But I put a lot more stock in this, honestly, than I do with iStep.
This is a better test.
So, but iStep this is our last year, and we do not have that data yet. It's still embargoed, and there are some discrepancies with scoring. So I wanted to have that data for you, but it's not released yet, so I will share that with you at a later date. I did the same thing with reading. Again, if it's highlighted in green, that means that that grade level across the district exceeded. Again, kindergarten was almost 3 RIT above. We were a little low in first grade, and then 5th and 6th. If you look at 5th and 6th, it was minimal. I mean, 1/10 and then 3/10. But something that I talked with Kim about is we've hired so many new elementary teachers in the last 4 years. We have to go back and revisit the balanced literacy to make sure that we're grounding these new teachers in that. So that's going to be an area of focus that Kim's working with our schools on this year. But I attest that. But still, when you look at the overall growth and how many places we're exceeding national, that to me says a lot, how we're stacking up nationally with districts across the U.S. Any questions so far on the NWA data? Graduation rates. I hounded Mr. Judd, and they just don't have it yet. And we don't have the state, but I feel we will hopefully be okay. But this is that odd year with adjustments with that too. So I wanted to share the last 3 years I had on record that we have continued to perform above state average with our graduation rates. And there was a drop in 17, which was almost 2% at the state level. So we increased by 1, so that gap widened last year. Just want you to look at this slide, see what stands out to you. Well, the big number should stand out. I helped you. Look at the increase in dual credits earned by a class that was much smaller this year.
Saved a lot of money.
3,690 credits earned. That doubled the year before.
Did we also add any dual credit classes that contributed to that at all?
I think it's more of just as kids
being
buy into it,
encouraged.
as parents are informed. Our middle school's doing so much more work on getting these kids connected. We're taking those, moving it down the line to help parents understand. A lot of parents still don't realize what's available for their kids. And so one of our goals is how do we do even better with that to try to get more parents aware of this. But I look for that number to increase next year as well. Because we have a lot more kids coming up in early college. Beth is here, and there's a lot more interest now in the middle schools. So that's pretty impressive. That was something I'm very proud of.
There's a huge drop, there's a drop of over 40 kids in the number of graduates from 2017. 2017 was a larger year, obviously, than 2015 and 16, but that's a significant drop. Do we have any sense of why that happened?
It was a smaller class anyway. It was one of those smaller groups. We've got some bigger groups coming up through. But we did have a number of kids who chose the homeschool route or moved. And the high school does track all those kids. But, some kids, homeschool's still too easy of a route to withdraw kids because there are really no guidelines from the state to hold parents accountable. So that's something all high schools are facing, and it's challenging. So anyway, I think that's a really great success. Next, high reliability schools. When I've shared different things with the board, when I set goals for myself, this is on my board in my office, and it's a focal point of what we do. And it's not anything new, but it's focusing on the curriculum, getting kids connected, building relationships, and good instructional practices. So what we have been working on is our math vertical articulation. And Kim has been leading this process. Sorry, I need a drink. And they are now in the process of moving into the final work on the vertical articulation. And what that is going K-12, looking at each of the standards and determining those critical and important standards. Because right now, our standards are this wide. So it's narrowing that focus and then doing a really great job in making sure kids are mastering those 15 to 20 standards at each grade. And then the next grade level knows what those core standards were that they were working on in 5th grade, so the 6th grade teachers build from there. So it's a process that I think has gone really well. Kim, did you have any other comments with that, or?
No, I think the teachers have done a great job of taking time to really look through each of the standards. Our math vertical articulation team spent a number of hours making sure that we didn't have any gaps. And it's been just the conversations that we've had K-12, our high school teachers talking to kindergarten teachers, and just those conversations have been very valuable, I think, for all of our staff. So I think it's going to be very beneficial as we move into next year, and we can be more focused on what we need to teach instead of teaching the book from page 1 to page 210.
Kim, does some of our in-service deal with that?
Yes.
The teachers at different levels?
Yes, all of our grade level meetings this year, the focus was math, vertical articulation, and then we had a committee that spent a number of additional hours working on it, and then we had several PD sessions with a group. One was a Marzano representative, and then we also had a group from Edge Ed, thank you, left my Edge Ed work with them as well. So they received a tremendous amount of time and support in making sure that we are aligning these to meet the needs of all of our kids.
Thanks, Kim. And I want to credit Kim and our administrative team for their work on this. I jumped in and started, and I tried to make it when I can, but it was really interesting early in the process when our high school teachers, they were not aware of what our elementary teachers and middle school teachers, some of what they were doing. So I don't know when this vertical process was done, if it's been done here, but it's something that I think has really been a great learning opportunity for all of our math teachers, K-12, because it helps our high school folks know where the kids are coming from and what those challenges have been and what the teachers have focused on. And then the high school teachers can tell our middle school teachers, wow, you guys really need to work harder on this. They're really coming in needing more of this. So it's a great process. We also started our related arts in the process. So there's been some good collaboration taking place with our music, art, PE teachers, because there was no alignment K-12. We have our curriculum maps, but for them to have time to talk and plan and share, that's one of those areas where we thought it would be a great time to tie that group in while we're doing the math. And then after we're done with that, then we move on this fall to language arts. But because we felt math was our critical need, we started with math first.
I don't want to take up time now to ask to explore this, but I would love to get Marzano's 101 class.
Sure.
Just to know what you guys are talking about. Okay. Not being a teacher might help us to just have an idea of what you're referring to when you talk about this stuff.
Okay.
So I don't know how we could do that, but.
We could do that with a board retreat, or we could use it as an informational presentation.
Yeah,
in a meeting,
just
too.
something that just
Okay.
helps us to, the language.
We can offer an 8-hour class, 6-hour, or a 30-minute
Go get a CEU.
tutorial. Yeah, you can get CEU. So anyway, it's a really great process, and I've just loved to see the collaboration that's
Yeah.
taking place, and that's something that our teachers have needed.
Do we have the ability, again, to track with some sort of assessment, so that the 7th grade teacher, math teacher, for example, can look at data on the 6th graders, and ISTEP, they've had that, but that's not useful. Can look and know the hand that they're dealt from day one, knowing, well, little Susie over here is in my 3rd period class, and according to her, she has difficulty in this area. So we can identify those children early. Do we have the capability of doing that? So we.
That's what we're working on
Yeah,
with
okay.
the formative
It's gonna-
assessment.
I realize it's gonna take a while to do that, to gather all that data, and that's a lot of work. But ultimately, it becomes a much better situation, because you know, if you have a whole class full of kids that already has this concept down, you brush on it and then you move on to something else where they don't. But if you don't know basically what they know or don't know, it makes it very difficult. And to have to go through that process sometimes.
Right, that's not to interject too much, but just the part of the process that we did this summer was the maps were put into like 3-week instructional chunks.
Okay, good.
And what the teachers are doing at each grade levels are creating these common CFAs,
Yeah,
short,
okay.
like 5-question assessments that
Okay.
they can give as a pretest. And if 80% of their kids have mastered that
Gotcha.
standard, then they don't need to spend 2 or 3 days on it, they can move forward.
Okay.
And
So
it
we
also-
have the availability to
Yeah.
get the data
And
that
it-
we
it
need
scores
in
it
a
for
very
them.
easy fashion.
Yeah, it's attached to Google Classroom, they go on, they click on it, the assessment comes up, the kids take it, and then it instantly gives them a report on their performance.
And that's the key too, because summative assessments aren't the tools that our teachers need every day. It's the quick checks and the short formative assessments to help guide reteaching and instruction. So that's what this is leading to, which also helps with response to intervention and instruction with RTI. You've heard that term. We have to do a better job with the RTI Tier 1 and 2 supports. And that is our belief that this will help with that data collection. So if Kathy wants to sit down with her 5th grade teachers and look at where the kids are with math, they will have this data. And, you know, one of the things we've heard from teachers is grading. Grading, you have to find time to grade. So these are short assessments that will be done computer-based where they'll have instant feedback on success on those standards-based questions. So I'm excited. I think it's a great process. I think we'll be implementing the math this year and then moving to language arts for the next year.
Just the amount of grading that had to be done on an individual classroom level, it was just,
Teachers need that quick
yeah.
feedback,
Yeah,
and that's what we're working towards, so it's.
that's the advantage of NWEA.
Yeah. And so when we get all that done, we'd be happy to share some examples and show what we're doing. New programs, there are 2 that I wanted to highlight that impact our pre-K 6 kids. One is the Title I preschool that you all approved to use with our Title I federal funds. And I believe right now we have 2 sections committed, which is good. So we already have 2 groups of kids already committed, and we're working on recruiting and finding more kids. We are going to be recruiting at the fair, and I know that our team here has been working hard. Run from Kelly if you see her, because she'll give you a
She'll
fan
catch
or a
up.
sign, or if you need a yard sign, we can get you a yard sign. But I really want to just send a shout out to these ladies, because our early childhood team is right here. And they are a team, and I just tell you, the community youth day, I always call it the wrong thing, that was held at the park last week, they were in there in the corner, and it was packed with people, and they were talking to lots of parents, and they were working as a team with Kathy and some of the other Head Start folks, and it was just really cool. So I want to commend this group. They have been doing some really cool things, reaching out to families, trying to build those connections. So the other is our K-6 science partnership with Indiana Science Initiative. You may hear it called ISI. We received the $100,000 grant this spring that we are using for training and the implementation of the hands-on science curriculum. We had our first round of trainings today at Frazee. I think we had 40 teachers in K-6 there training. So there was some good stuff going on at Frazee today with that first round of training for all of our K-6 teachers who couldn't make that first training. It is a research-based instructional model, inquiry model, hands-on. Kids get to learn, experience, and it's just, I used this in my last district, and it just totally changed what our kids learned and the connections they made to science. So I'm really excited. It's a lot of work. So if you talk to the K-6 teachers, there's a lot of work in preparation this first year of learning it. But it's going to be a great resource. And ISI formed from a partnership with Eli Lilly, BioCrossroads, Department of Ed, and the iSTEM Network. So I've known those folks for about 6 years, and they're making some huge impacts. So we were very fortunate to get the grant, and I'm just excited about where we're going with it.
Will our middle and high school science teachers, like, also be able to see what's going on and how those, you know?
They are welcome, and they use some kits already at the middle school, that this will segue nicely into what they're doing. The kids will be more prepared with those experiments and those hands-on things as they get to them. So it's a win-win for our kids in
Middle
science.
school's been doing this for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, quite a
with the-
while.
With the
6.
kids.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different concept, and the kids, the 7th graders coming in, we walk into a 7th grade science classroom, and they say, well, this is what they're gonna do, and they go, this is not what we've done. And so it was a totally different approach to science, which they liked, but it was difficult for them to adapt to initially. So this will be continuous through K through 6.
It's cool. There's different kids per grade based on the standards. And I remember my kindergarten kids, the first year we were doing it, they were studying textiles. And so they had been learning about denim and corduroy and all these different materials. And one little guy came in and said, "Is your suit polyester?" And I said, "No, it's actually wool." "Oh, well, you know where wool comes from?" So these little kindergartners were engaging with me on clothing, and I'm thinking, so it was still off the rack suit, by the way, it was polyester. So next with transportation, TransFinder, you all approved that purchase. This is really moving us into the 21st century along with what you approved tonight with our hiring. But this is really cool, and Katrina is very excited. She admits she's a bus geek, and she loves what she does. And it is the GPS piece with this. You can pull up she can see where every bus is located live time. And one of the pieces that we're working on is a smartphone app for our parents that we hope to get into place this year, where parents will get access only to their child's bus information, and they can put the app on their smartphone and they can see where the bus is on its route. So on those snowy or cold days when they don't want their kids to wait outside for 5 minutes if the bus is running late, they can pull that up on their phone and then see live time where the bus is so they can send their kids out right before it arrives. So that's a work in progress. I think our parents will love that when we get that into place. So Katrina is working on getting the GPS installed on all of our buses. It's called Zonar, and that also helps with diagnostic purposes. So if we have a bus at the Children's Museum and it's having some issues, they can pull the diagnostics up to see what's going on to try to determine what the issue is. So for somebody who loves busing like Katrina, she's in heaven, I will tell you. So, and it's pretty cool. So look for that for our parents. I think that's going to be something well received. Some bus purchases. I tweeted out a picture. We just got our new Thomas buses in, and there were 2 bus drivers I talked to, and they're getting 2 of those new buses, and they're pretty excited. Katrina just does a really nice job with getting the most bang for your buck with the options. And this is a move from International to Thomas buses, and they are sharp. So I'm really excited about where we're going with those buses. We also have on order the 88 passenger transit bus. It's the flat nose type bus. It'll be a front engine or a rear engine bus, but we'll use that for football, band. It'll hold more kids, and it'll also save us money when we take 2 classes to the zoo and there are 20 kids in a class. Well, when we take 10 parents and a couple of teachers with you, you can't all fit on a 66 passenger bus because you really only put 2 per seat. So this will allow us to put more kids, and so it'll be a cost savings because we will only need 1 bus for some of those trips when we have 40 to 50 kids, which will also be a savings. Plus, we'll be able to transport more kids for band and football and some of our larger programs as well to go along with the Spartan Express. This will be the same size as the Spartan Express. However, the Spartan Express will have the coach type seating, so it will seat fewer kids, but that's coming next week. So,
In time for the fair?
In time for the fair. We have a place at the fair reserved for it, and we hope that we can get the Wi-Fi installed and have that as a hot spot at the fair. And so this is really exciting as an e-learning bus and a bus that we can use for other programs. Because Wi-Fi accessibility in our county is not good, and so we have different ideas of where we could use this, where kids can come and safely tap into our Wi-Fi that is filtered. So we've got a lot of different ideas we want to do. I don't know of any other bus in the state that's like this, so I'm hoping we can really do some cool things.
Lori and I borrow the bus.
Drive it out by your house.
Terrible with
Kim needs it too.
Right. She wants
We at the store.
Yeah, right.
But one of the newspaper writers, he did an interview with us twice, and talking about being, the technology and the Wi-Fi issues that are in Fayette County. And I know he's got a story coming out here, a series coming up pretty soon, right, Bob? But it was really interesting to just talk with him about, and to share some of our struggles we have with the Wi-Fi for our kids and not having access to it at home with their iPads. So I'm hoping we can make some progress as a county with that. Food service, wanted to highlight a couple things. Food service is pretty famous this year in the U.S. and the state. Matt McCutcheon is a great friend to Fayette County Schools, and I know Matt's going to be back here in town again.
He's Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal of the parade. But just some numbers. Breakfast in the classroom, 289,000 plus meals. Second chance breakfast at CHS, 45,224 meals. And then our free supper, 35,397. So we do have some food insecurity in this community, and I am very proud of what our food service does in Chartwell's to help try to close that gap and try to help feed our kids.
And that doesn't count our holiday or summer numbers, right?
No, and so
Our
bus, if
holiday
you,
numbers are very low.
yeah, they're not as high as,
They are not very good at all.
yeah, about 60 to 70 a day, I think, is what I heard last week when I stopped on the bus.
For the bus.
For the bus.
For
I'm
the
talking about
bus.
the bus.
But the holiday, fall
Oh.
break,
Oh, the
spring
holiday,
break, and
right,
Christmas,
But the summer one does okay.
it's terrible. Oh, yeah, yeah.
That is so cool.
I followed them through town the other day, and they went to the park pool, and I wish I hadn't gotten on the bus before all these wet kids got on the bus with their food, but I did. And so I commend our bus drivers really enjoy doing this. We use our bus drivers to fill in, and then one of our Chartwell's employees is on there, and they're so good with the kids, and the kids know what they're supposed to do. It's really cool. I just want to commend that, we repurposed an old bus, and it's really nice inside. If you haven't checked it out, we need to get it out here sometime for you to see. Other additions to food service, the Discovery Kitchen, the smoothie bike, which we had here at a board meeting, and then hiring our executive chef, and then the coffee bar at CHS, the Starbucks bar. So that was a big hit, and I know that's something that my own child thought was cool. Finances. We have to talk finances when we talk about schools and any public entity. But I wanted to show you our revenue from the state and our general fund over the last 4 years, and then what our expenditures are. So from 2014 to 2017, we dropped about $635,000 in revenue. But yet if you look at the expenditures, we continue to live within our means. And I commend Janie. She's one of the best out there. I tell everybody that.
Yep.
She's never allowed to retire until I do.
Until you do.
But, and here's a graph just to show, we're only looking at a 3.5 million spread on that, so it can be deceptive. But when you look at that, I'm proud that we are continuing to maintain that as we try to find ways to increase our compensation and benefits for our employees, which we've made some really great strides the last 2 years. And we need to continue to find ways to do that when we can, so. District improvements, I started listing all these, and I know Janie's going to provide something to you at the end, because I had 3 pages of this, and I wasn't going to go through them, but just, the public sometimes doesn't know all that goes on in a school district over the summer, and we are doing about $2 million worth of work this summer. And here are some of the projects. I had to cut a lot, but, you look at the different things that are happening. We invest in sports, we have to do that, and we have 2 new fields out there that are looking really good. Auditorium lighting at the high school with the sound improvements and the lighting. I think Joe's thinking, why did I retire now? Because there's some really nice upgrades. But just reading through that, the CMS project is going well, and that was a very expensive, what was it, about $950,000. So wholesale carpet, I saw them over the weekend at CMS doing carpet. So there's just a lot going on. I just wanted you all in the public to know how much work takes place to keep our buildings in such great shape, because we don't have any new buildings. All of our buildings are showing their age just through, but I commend the board and past administration and our maintenance team for taking great care of our buildings, because they all are in great shape. Safety and security improvements, Janie shared some info last month, but I just wanted to highlight a couple. We had a lot of different comments come after the paper ran some stories on that. First, I want to say on record, we are not enclosing the whole top of the courtyard. We're not enclosing that with a roof of any kind. And Spartan Bowl will still be the home of the Spartans for basketball because, you know, some folks were thinking this new field house might replace that. So this is not a field house that will hold 5,000 or 6,000 people. It will be used for all of our sports teams. We met with our coaches last week with the architects, and most of our sports were represented. Every sport in our district will utilize this field house for training. Our band will utilize it, our guard can utilize it, our youth programs will utilize it. I think it'll bring money into our community as well. I think with travel tournaments and AAU and all the different things, we're going to be a site where people will come to us and spend their dollars, stay in our hotel, eat at our restaurants, shop in our stores. So I think we'll become, with that and the soccer field and the complex that's going in with the baseball fields, I think we will become a really great destination from the economical side, even though that's not our purpose. It's good when we can help our community because our taxpayers are paying for this facility, so we're able to give back. Some other work with the interior doors and locks on our classrooms at CHS. We were able to get some additional security cameras installed, and then also we have posted another full-time student resource officer position. We were successful in receiving the grant, and I talked with one of the sheriff's department members today, and there are 6 law enforcement officers who are currently registered for SRO training, which they must have before they can work for us, so they will be going to that training in early August.
Scott, are any of those applicants female
For,
the school resource?
we just posted it today.
Oh, okay.
Which group
Because
is
it would
it?
really be nice if you could find a qualified, because when you're talking about security issues, particularly if you were, I noticed when you're talking about wanding, things like that, I would really like to push for a female resource officer, you know.
It's posted and it's open. I mean, the requirements are that you have the law enforcement background and they have to have the student resource officer training. That's a requirement. And that's offered at Newcastle. I know that we have 6 people here locally who I've been told are signed up for that they're going on their own,
Okay.
you know, working with their supervisors. So it's posted, so get the word out. And then the other
The key
thing.
is having to have that training.
The
And
key
getting
is-
signed up for it, because we cannot hire them if they're not.
Then the passive security, we have all of our buildings, school buildings with passive security, which means you can't just walk in and have access to the hallways. You have a first entry, and then you have the receptionist or the secretary there who will buzz you in or let you in. So the last building is the Career Center that is in the works. Janie's working on with Steve Dungan on getting that accomplished.
Brian.
That's a priority. And Brian Hensley, so we're gonna get that done, and then all of our buildings will be. What's ahead? We want to continue to grow our early college high school, expand the number of students enrolled and the credits earned. We're going to be breaking ground and beginning construction at CHS soon. They've been out doing soil tests and surveys, and we had really great meetings with the architects, with our athletic department, our CHS administration, our coaches last week. They will be coming to the board at the August meeting to present their preliminary drawings of what the plans will look like for your consideration, discussion, and that will be done in our August meeting, and then hopefully take that feedback from the board, fine tune it, and then the September meeting, hopefully get it approved, and then start getting things bid and breaking ground in the next month after that.
Scott, as far as getting it completed, I saw 2 different dates, fall of 2019 and then 20.
Fall of 2019.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah. So it's about a 15, 16-month total process. They said, if the weather cooperates and there are no major issues. So we anticipate it being ready for second semester of the 19-20 school year. Closing thoughts. I didn't put a lot of quotes and things like this, but you want to know where my heart is and what my core belief is. Here it is. It's my belief that measurable student achievement is very important as we educate the children of our county. We must always strive to improve our instructional practices, curriculum, and ultimately increase the academic achievement. I believe it is even more important that we build relationships with children, their families, and our community. Students may not remember every math lesson or grammar rule that we teach, but they will remember that we believed in them and genuinely cared about them. They will remember how we didn't give up on them, how we always made decisions based on a kid's first focus, that we loved them. The foundation for becoming a high reliability school district is in building relationships with our students. This must be our highest priority. You know that since you hired me, but that's the foundation that we're going to keep focusing on, is building those connections, making school relevant to our kids, and trying to help them overcome the challenges that they're facing. Teaching's a tough job. And, I revere teachers. Teachers are the ones that are making it happen, and education has taken a hit out there politically. And that's a shame, because there are a lot of good people who have left the profession in the last 5 to 10 years because of, I think, the lack of respect at the national level and state level at times. So, our teachers do have challenging jobs, but I really am proud of the work they're doing and the NWA growth we're seeing. I think that speaks volumes. So I just want to send a shout out to them and to our administrators, because it's a tough job. I don't ever want to forget what it was like to be a teacher and a principal, because they're the front line and they're preparing our kids for the future. So. And that is it. Any questions?
Many years ago, we had Michelle Borba come in, and the focus of the thing was, children will never remember, or very likely to remember what you taught them, but they'll always remember how you treated them. And this follows that philosophy. And when you have difficult children, I'm sure Mark experiences too, has former students come up to him and say, "Hi, Mr. Beard, how you doing? You remember me?" And you look at him and think, "Oh, man." But that makes you feel really, really good that you had a positive impact on someone. And particularly when they're still around the community, that's really good feeling.
I think I missed a slide.
I think you missed.
I need 20 more minutes now. I'm sorry.
It is at 42.
I missed one about the
No.
early childhood, didn't I?
No,
The very last.
the last,
Oh, did I
the
just?
second to the last.
Okay.
Where you talk, yeah.
I'm sorry, I got caught up on the Phil Hal, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Our early childhood, and something that we're trying to do is expand that. And, this year, we're looking at moving that program into Maplewood and Grandview. And our hope is, at some point, we can create an early learning, a childhood center for our early learners, possibly located within one of our elementary buildings we currently have. That's my dream. So we'll be talking more about that down the road, but this is our first year to tackle that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to talk about that a little bit here. So really excited. A lot of pressure on you, right, Kelly? Not really, it's good, but that is something, that's a dream, is how do we serve all the kids in our community at a younger age to try to fill those gaps, so. And that is it. Thank you for listening.
Quick question. Obviously, we had a lot of successes in the growth of the NWEA in comparison to the beginning of the year and the end. Are administrators building, anybody in each building, are we going to do anything to celebrate that with the teachers and really show them kind of we appreciate that effort?
I want to share this with our staff too, and
Sure.
I think that's a celebration for us. So that's something that, and I will tell you, Kim and I get bogged down in the day-to-day and looking at things, and when I ran all this and work, it took a while to pull all that and get it together. It was like, wow, and when I showed her after she was back from vacation, it was like, wow. You don't see that sometimes until you really step
Until you
back
put it together.
and look at the bigger picture of it. So yeah, definitely, that's something that all of our schools need to be able to share.
Can Mr. Hanson put some of this in the Connersville News Examiner? Because we get a lot of bad raps about our I-STEP tests, which are an abomination, and this test is so much better. It really gives us what we need to know as educators, and we are doing an exemplary, those teachers of Fayette County are doing an exemplary job, and I'd really like to see that publicized. It's not the A, B, C, D, F from the State Department of Ed, but this is truly indicative of what the Fayette County School Corporation is doing for the students of Fayette County. And, as the as a writer for the paper, I would strongly encourage you to write something about this, because this is really where we are. It's not the I-STEP test, it's not what the state says we are, it's where we say we are. And we have the empirical data from a very, very good test that shows we're doing a good job with the kids and we're making progress, and this is a very positive school corporation to be a part of. And I think as the newspaper in the county, that would be a really good thing for you to write an article about that. On the front page, above the fold, please. Pictures,
Bob, no
All right.
pressure there, right? I will tell you that I-STEP
pressure,
is
Bob.
ending. And, next test is called I-Learn, which is going to be rolling out. And it is a test similar in design to what NWA is, because NWA is so nice because I-STEP is one test, everybody takes the same thing. NWA adjusts as children get more and more right, it ramps up the expectations and increases the difficulty. This new I-Learn test is supposed to be designed in a similar way as NWA, where it is, it adjusts with each child. So you get a better indicator of that student's learning level, rather than just a test that everyone takes regardless of, you may have a learning disability, it doesn't matter, you're taking that same test. It adjusts at each kid's level, so we should see some more data that is useful to us, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I-STEP is a one-size-fits-all, and it really doesn't fit anybody.
So we're hoping that this new one will inform us more.
Alrighty, we will move on to public comments. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none, we'll move on to report items. Superintendent discussion group reports. Principals, directors reports. I did have a question. I know Scott mentioned you've got kids in the morning and the afternoon. What are your numbers?
For the title preschool, that have two at 8 and PM, we're at 12 in each right now,
And what is your max?
around the 12.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm hoping for a big influx of children between now and registration. We just released the registration dates and pushed some more stuff out through Twitter.
Okay.
And I'm just, when I see a little one, I'm asking, how old are you?
Good to
And it's
know.
working.
Great, great, thank
And Lori,
you.
your
Pushing it
numbers.
at registration, at elementary registration?
Yes.
Are they asking about preschool?
So I'm
So
going,
that's-
my plan is to have a table at each elementary school for walk-ins with just a generic form. And
Yep.
then the ones who have already shown interest will be officially registering at Maplewood that day.
That'd be great.
Okay, good. Director of Human Resources report.
Just a quick update, since the 1st of April, we've had 58 changes in our teaching staff. Some are just transfers to a different position, but some are people that have left, and some are positions we created. We've hired 30 new people at this point. We still have 10 to fill, and hopefully that's it for this year.
Thank you. We appreciate your hard work. Director of Finance report.
Thank you, Mrs. Jacobs. I have a few items. Scott and I are going to overlap a bit. We should have planned better or whatever. Anyhow, with us this evening, we're well represented from the News Examiner. We all know Mr. Hanson. We also have Brandon Townsend. His mom, Jane, works at the high school. And so he requested some information about our summer projects to work on an article. So Brian put the meat of the list together. I added some things and added some money, and I thought the board might like to have a copy of it. It includes the projects that are going on at each of our buildings and the amounts that have been approved or purchase orders that have been issued related to those projects. And basically, it summarizes to over $2.1 million worth of work going on in the district this summer. So I thought this might be useful for you as well. And we look forward to reading Brandon's article. Scott also discussed the Safe Schools grant that we were awarded for the second year. And he pointed out about the additional resource officer. That will take about half of the funding for the resource officer. In addition to that, we were approved for some additional security cameras at our locations. Also, we're going to deploy a push-button 911 direct contact from our secretary or receptionist desk, so that they can, if they have someone aggressive, they can push the button and it immediately calls 911 for a dispatch to their location. We're also going to investigate a visitor management system whereby one that's out there, you can scan their driver's license, and then that tells you if that person perhaps should not be allowed into your building, and that will be installed at each of our buildings.
Would that be a requirement? Because what if somebody doesn't have a driver's license?
Well, there will be some conversation about that, but one principal who serves on the safety committee has discussed, if you don't have an ID, a state ID, then we don't want you to come in where our kids are.
So I think you have to be careful with that.
Yeah,
I think there are a lot of people that don't have IDs.
Yeah. A lot of-
Unfortunately. People that don't drive, or people in poverty that don't.
And they don't have a picture ID, they might have a Medicaid card or a Hoosier Healthwise card or something like that that identifies who they are. But they're not gonna have the picture, they're not gonna have the picture ID. And the process for getting one of those is,
Well, you have to get to the license branch, you have to submit certain information, you have to be there on certain days if you don't have transportation. I just think that's something we should consider.
I can say to this, there's no entry into any federal building now without a picture ID. That's, because they'll tell us if they don't have one or they refuse to show, they cannot enter any federal building.
It's the world we live in.
Right,
Yeah.
we're not a federal building.
Yeah, and I realize that,
And
but I'm
also,
saying-
what is a federal building? Because our courthouses don't require that.
Federal do.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
federal do.
like, yeah, and
Uh-huh.
not everybody, I can't remember
I'm
last
just
time I was in
saying
a
that's,
federal building. No, and I'm not trying to nitpick, I'm just saying that in our county, I think that could be
Then
possible.
perhaps we should just pass on that, because if there's someone who wants access to our buildings, and we don't require them to provide that type of identification, that we can verify that they should have the right to be in our building. Maybe they just don't give us their driver's license, I don't have one. They lie and say, I don't have one, so that
Are
you
we
can't
not,
verify.
wait, are we talking about parents and guardians who are picking up kids, or are we talking about vendors or stray people? What are we talking about?
Genders, it could be.
It could be parents.
Yeah, but
Could
most
be
typically,
grandparents.
parents will be ones that hopefully there's a relationship with there too. And most parents will come to the office for pickup or something like that, and they don't move beyond the office.
Yeah, they don't go into the building.
So that'll be most of our situations if we do use this, something like this. We'll talk more about it, it's just
Yeah, it's.
FYI, something we're looking at.
Several schools in the area, in the Greensburg area, have deployed a Raptor system that they are very pleased with, and there are other schools throughout the state that use that system also. The safety committee has discussed that, and that's what drove a lot of the things that we put into the grant. This additional resource officer, the ability to contact 911 immediately and discreetly. So
Right.
what we built in the grant was in response to our school safety committee. That includes stakeholders from administration, teachers, sheriff's department, the county probation. Sometimes we'll have someone from the courts, but they aren't able to attend very often, obviously. So it does include a 50% match. But because we were already paying for one resource officer, that serves as the match for the second resource officer. So really, our match is just related to the equipment component, if you will. So, and then the third item real quickly is bring your checkbooks to the orange property on Thursday and let's buy. And you two may own, so that we no longer own the orange school property.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, the auction's Thursday morning.
Okay, thank you,
It's been
Kate.
advertised many, many times in the paper.
Do we have a minimum bid?
You established that.
It's 10,000.
Oh, that's
At
right.
$10,000.
At $10,000.
Jane, I'm glad to see that we're, in a lot of our projects, trying to improve our LED lighting.
Yeah.
I know that's listed in here several times. Hopefully, we're gonna look maybe at solar.
Actually, as a matter of fact, if Brian's available next Wednesday, Performance Services, who we're having an outstanding relationship with on the middle school project, they have a division that does solar assessments. And when we had our construction meeting last week, I talked to Nick about it. Brian had to be out this afternoon, but we've tentatively scheduled a meeting for next Wednesday morning for them to come in
Good.
and talk.
I think it's a great idea.
So,
Hope
yes,
we get some good feedback there.
We are, but
We're
Good.
getting some rebates back on that too, I'm sure, correct?
we do. We get rebates on all of the LED lighting that we're doing.
It's such better lighting too.
Yeah,
It's so much more efficient.
less watts and more light.
More light.
Thanks, Janie.
You're welcome.
Assistant Superintendent report.
I just want to echo what Scott said earlier about shout out to the Fayette County Foundation for their continued support with early education. Jumpstart, I was able to get into almost all of the buildings on Monday, and it's amazing how quickly our teachers just get back on the saddle and they've got those kids going and they're already starting to build those relationships and working on procedures and expectations. And another shout out to those teachers that see the value in it and take time out of their summer to come back early. It really does make a difference, and so just a shout out to those teachers for their commitment to our kids.
And Scott, Superintendent's report.
I talked myself out, but I want to share next Tuesday, July 24th, will be an executive session with the board with Michael Adamson with ISBA, 5 o'clock here. Cindy's getting the posting out, she may have already done it, the noted legal notice. And there'll be light meal, she'll take care of us there. I communicated, Leslie, I didn't know if you had seen it, we may have a few teacher positions that we would like to go ahead and get approved. So we have scheduled a 5 o'clock regular board meeting just for personnel. And we'll know for sure by Monday, but if we don't.
We hope we can have that meeting, right?
Yes, we do. We're
We're
working
working on it.
on several positions. So I wanted to make you aware of that we will be posting a 5 o'clock regular meeting and then a short 10 minutes max. And then we'll start in with the executive session for professional development with Indiana School Board Association.
And then we have the policy meeting at
At 4:30 for the policy committee for the two of them.
Yeah.
So, and that's it. So thank you.
Thank you. For the good of the cause, does anybody feel like
We have a
speaking
couple
up?
things. Want to thank Scott Sargent for his over 25 years of service in the baseball program. Really appreciate Scott, and I encourage everybody to support Gabe and the FFA kids at the fair. Get out and support everybody at the fair,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
especially the FFA kids and the 4-H kids. Thank you.
Good. Anything else?
I would just like to say, oh, I'm sorry. No. I would just say with after Scott's presentation there on the increase in the scores, being above state and national average, I think, with what we have to, the teachers, mainly the teachers and the administrators and everybody as a collective team, but what you have to face, in this community, and still have that kind of increase, from the fall to the spring, I just think is a real testament to our, dedication and commitment to our students. So really want to say, good job, and, I'm one of those guys that's always going to push for more, so, hopefully we can, bump those increases up even more come this year, and so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to 18-19 school year, so, yeah.
It'll be
Got a
great
lot
year.
of things on the agenda.
Great year.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the new sign out at Fayette Central looks wonderful. I drive by it every day. And, I just didn't think about it. It was the only elementary without a sign out there, and it's like, what, but it's really nice. And I just want to thank everyone involved in, the fundraising, the donations and all that. I mean, it was quite expensive, but it is a neat message board and everything. It looks very nice out there, so.
There, lots been sealed.
Oh,
And
nice.
they'll get a new awning in the next week or two.
I saw that, that's exciting. I hadn't
And
noticed
so
that.
it's.
Okay, good.
Moving to
Upgrade. Yes.
Great. Okay, well, I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you, Andy. A second? All right, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.